So, hi everyone. I'm going to talk to you about the way to connect your Jibster apps to a world of APIs, because nowadays everybody does APIs, and how to do that with tools such as OpenAPI and gRPC. So I changed the title. Before it was Swagger. Now I try to say OpenAPI because it's a new name, but I may say sometimes Swagger instead of OpenAPI. Okay, so about me, I'm a Jibster core team member since 3 years, and also I was Swagger CodeGen core team member for 3 years. I recently quit for a fork that we did, which is called OpenAPI Generator, which is a community fork of Swagger CodeGen. So now I'm a member of OpenAPI Generator. So that's why I talk about OpenAPI plus Jibster, because these are the two projects I'm really involved in. Okay, so to begin a little with a theory, not long, but I would like to talk about the evolution of the SOA protocols, service-oriented protocols. So a long time ago, we had RMI and CORBA, which were really hard to deal with a protocol to make application communicate with each other. Then came the age of SOAP. I started with SOAP. Like any of you, I think I have some bad memories about SOAP. Nowadays, everybody does REST, but there are also other RPC protocols such as Thrift, Evro, new ones that are gaining momentum, such as gRPC or GraphQL. Okay, so I said that today everybody does REST. This is the well-known Richardson maturity model. So with different levels, when you are doing level 0, it's bad, really bad. You're still doing SOAP. When you're doing level 1, you are using different paths to different resources, but still always doing a post with a 200 result. At level 2, you use all the power of HTTP, using the verbs, post, get, delete, etc., and using the error codes from HTTP. And at level 3, you are using normally hypermedia control and the so-called 8OS, so hypermedia as the engine of application state. So normally, you shouldn't call your API REST if you do not implement 8OS, according to Roy Fielding, which was the inventor of REST. But what we see is that in practice, everybody stops at level 2. So because using hypermedia for REST, it's a great idea, it's a great concept, it's a concept of the World Wide Web, but to implement API, we see that it's really difficult, and so far I haven't seen any true API implementing fully 8OS. Okay, so why Swagger OpenAPI? When we had CORBA, we had an interface description language that was describing the API the remote API you wanted to consume. You see that this is really readable. I haven't done any CORBA in my life. I can read this. I know a bit how it will work. I know that there will be a withdraw and a deposit function. When we got SOAP, there was an ideal, which was CodeWhistle. Okay, so too bad for the readability. We lost something in the way, but it was the XML age, so everything needed to be XML. So actually, this example is much more simpler than the former one. It's only a hello service, which is just hello request and hello answer, but the format is really not nice. What about REST? If you're in the Roy Fielding world and the REST world, level 3 REST world, you don't need any ideal, because your API is supposed to be dynamic and self-describing, meaning that you have an endpoint, entry endpoint, and then from there, your client will discover what are the actions that are possible, what will be the content of the response, etc. And you will need to go through the API like this and discover. But as I said, nobody is doing 8OS. So we all started doing REST, and I did this. But then there was the problem of how do we document, how do we communicate about our API. So what we did, and a lot of people did, and I did it also, was to document it with a Word. At best, an ASCII doc documentation that we would share with as a documentation. But there was a lot of problems with that. It was very tedious to write. The developers didn't want to do it. It was full of errors. It was if you had a little error in the find by status, you put a little s, and then your documentation is not accurate. And you had to write all the code by hand just by reading the documentation. So that's why there began to be a battle of formats to describe REST. There were several of them, and the clear winner, I think, of this format is formerly Swagger, and which is now called OpenAPI. So OpenAPI, Swagger did a tool. I think that's why they won the award. It's because they had a lot of tools, really nice tools, especially one which was the Swagger UI. And so with JHipster, you could just put a library, which is called SpringFox. It would scan your, it scans your Spring MVC endpoints, and it will generate the Swagger specification. And from there, with the Swagger UI, you can use your API with dynamic documentation and with the try button. So I will show it right now. The advantage is that you have absolutely no work to do. You just put the library, and your documentation is always synchronized with your code. If you do a modification, it's your specification is exactly modified in the way you did. So no more errors. It's easy to find because you can host it directly on your server. Okay. So this is a sample app from JHipster. I just upgraded it yesterday to the version 5, and we can start it. So I believe everybody knows this administration panel with the API entry. And there you can see all your resources. So you have the account resource, you have the resources for your entities, all the endpoints. And of course, you can easily try your API directly with a try it button. It will execute the request, you will get the result. You even have the curl command. If you like to do command line, you just copy paste, and you can directly do it in console. Okay, so this is nice for documentation, but you also have some kind of contract, and when you have a contract, you can begin to generate things. For instance, you can generate a client SDK so that other people will be able to consume your API. So that for that we can use OpenAPI generator, which is a generator of code that can generate in a lot of languages, supports the new format v3. And what is interesting is that it can generate SDKs for the Spring Cloud Feign clients. And so I wrapped it, this generator, into a module which is called generator JHipster Swagger CLI. To generate directly backend clients for your JHipster application. So first, I will start an application. Okay. So this is not a Jeepster application, actually. It's an external application, which is the famous pet store, okay, where you have some operations about pet. Now, this I can have the Swagger file for this application, and no, not this. Okay, and I will generate a client for my sample application for this pet store. So let's go. Okay, it detected that there's an application on port 8080, so and it's a Jeepster application. So I could generate a client for my own server, but that's not what I want to do. If it were a gateway, I could generate a Swagger documentation for any documentation of the gateway. So it could be a microservice, another microservice. But here it's an external documentation, so I will just put the location of my Swagger spec, give it a name, and I let it generate everything. Okay. So for the code, it generated in the client directory all the code needed to make queries to the remote pet store. So I have an interface with the different methods. We have a FAIN client, and all the models were generated. Okay, so now what I can do is quickly I create a test resource. No. Okay, so I'm doing an endpoint that will consume, that will use the SDK to return something. Okay, so I use the generated method. I get the body of the response that it will give me, and I will output the name of the pet ID, and I will get the pet ID, let's say 1. Okay, we run. Why it's not there? I should have the test resource, which should be added. Trying another way. Okay, I have a problem. Let's try incognito maybe. It's weird. No, well, okay. I shouldn't have to, no. Normally it should work. It's not detecting, I don't know why. Okay, so normally it should generate an endpoint, and I should be able to just call the client and get the result. It was working yesterday. Huh? Oh, I did it. Sorry, stupid me. Yes, of course. Okay, so this is because we have actually an auto configuration of Swagger, and it scans everything which is on the /API path. So I need to put my resource on /API. Okay, so now I have my test resource. Thank you. I have my try it button. Let's see. And I got the name of my pet number 1. Okay. So if you had done it here, if that the new UI for Swagger, okay, I show that it's actually really the name of the pet one. Okay. So okay, this is nice, but what we can also do is to do API first development. The idea is that you can generate, actually, instead of generating the documentation from your code, you generate the code from the documentation. This has the advantage that you write first, you first design your API, and you're not dependent of your implementation. First, you design your API so that it's a good API, and then you will generate the code and implement it. So we have a Gipster first, an API first option in Gipster. So I will show it quickly. Okay. Okay, so here in the options, you have API first development using API generator. If you select this, this will modify your generated code to integrate it. I will do it by directly into the yo.rc. Okay. Oh, thank you. I'm trying to exit VI. I don't know why it's Gipster v5 beta. Strange. Okay. No. I didn't want to do that. Oh. Sorry. Okay. So now let's look at what has been generated. So in your POM, there will be a configuration. I think there has been something wrong. Okay, so your POM has been changed to integrate the Maven plugin that will generate the API endpoints from the Swagger file. Okay. Okay, so here you have your API.yaml. Let's take a file that we want to generate. For instance, I want to generate the pet store. I will take the YAML file of the pet store. Copy it here. Okay, this will be my the definition of all the endpoints I want to add. So I will add all the endpoints from the API into my server. What I need to do is just also to add that was the problem of before, to add here and I launch my server. It's not working. So the endpoints were generated. Okay. So I have generated a full API with just a YAML file that I could have done designed it in GitHub, etc. And you already have existing. It already responds if you do a try it. So this is bad request. So I have a technical issue in my JSON. It answers with a true code, but if yeah, maybe this is because I didn't do the good. I will do a select. It's easier. Okay, it just responds with 501, which means not implemented. I don't know if I have a lot of time because 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Okay. So I'll move on. Normally, if I didn't have any technical issues, I would have shown how to implement quickly one of the endpoints. So basically, you just to show, not doing it for real, but in the generated code, generated sources, you see that you have your OpenAPI code, which was generated here. Okay. You have so interface which is implemented by a controller. Okay, There are some things that you can configure in the controller, but what is interesting is that by default, there's a default implementation of the interface, which is to call a delegate. So what you have to do is just implement the delegate and replace the default endpoints that are here. You can also, in the default delegate, it can generate examples. If I pass the request, so the native web request to the implementation, then by default it will generate some examples with random data. Okay. So another technology which is nice to make your application, your JSTOR application communicate is gRPC. So what is gRPC? It's a RPC, so it's a remote procedure call, which is focused on high performance and to have an integrated developer experience. If we do a quick comparison from between REST and gRPC, we see that gRPC is clearly API-centered and built for performance and with strong typing and opinionated choices. There's an ideal, and there are a lot of already integrated technologies. If you want to do it with REST, you have a lot more possibilities with REST, but you have to choose your own technologies. So it depends on what you want to do. gRPC has also really nice features which you could do with HTTP. Actually, gRPC is built upon HTTP too. But it has already built-in bidirectional streaming, deadline propagation, cancellation propagation. The Java implementation is asynchronous and unblocking. There is flow control with back pressure, so it's compatible with reactive streams. Actually, there is an extension for reactive streams, which is called reactive gRPC. And so I've built a module on top of this, which is a generator JSTOR gRPC module. On which I use this library to implement all the actuator endpoints and the entity endpoints, and you can, of course, add your own services. So normally this one should be fine. So when I launch the generator, I can select which entities I want, for which entities I want to add gRPC. I say all of them, okay. So I have some, so the gRPC services. Okay, I'm compiling because it needs to compile the protobuf. So gRPC is based on protobuf. So all the protos are generated together with the services. And if you're familiar with Webflux, you will note that the code which is generated looks a lot like what you would do with Webflux, because it uses a Reactor library, Mono for simple things. So what is very interesting is that if you do collections, for instance, a get-all, it will use Flux, and it will be all with back pressure, reactive streams, and etc. So basically, what it also generates is a mapper to map between the gRPC objects to the JSTOR objects. So if there are DTOs or domain objects. Okay. So I'm finished.